Hello Internet! Welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be painting this adorable dog. His name is Cobalt, and this is kind of a long video, but hope you stick around and I hope you enjoy it. As you can see, I'm just laying down some color right now. Whoa, heavy on those eyebrows. Easy there, killer. Thick brows. I love it. Wow. So in this year. So, yeah, take some of that water, girl. What she was thinking. Okay. Basically, whenever you start any watercolor painting, the most important thing is to build from the ground up. So it might not make a whole lot of sense in the beginning, and it's really terrifying because you're convinced that your work is going to be hideous the entire time you're painting, and it doesn't really come together until the end. But just hold on, just keep working, and don't give up, because I've had a lot of pieces like that where I started and they looked questionable, and then they pulled through in the end. So just, if you ever feel like your painting isn't turning out right, just take a moment, walk your dog, call your grandmother, she worries about you, and then come back once it's dry and try to add some more layers in. So as you can see, I'm starting to lay down some darker values. This depends on what I'm painting. For this particular painting, I'm taking care to keep the lightest parts of the dog light, and I'm just kind of laying down the basic color so I can go in and add the fur and the texture later. You always want to pay attention to where the light is hitting your subject. In this case, I was looking at a photo of the dog, and he has light and dark areas in his fur, but he also is getting some sunlight in the center of his forehead and like on the ends of his paws. So I kept those points light, and as you can see, I am adding some more dark color in, and that's going to be the darkest part of him, so I kind of just wanted to lay that down so it could start to dry. And if you notice, as I go through this particular painting, I'm taking care to leave his light parts white and not really worrying so much about the texture of the fur, but just focusing on getting the color right, because I can always adjust that later. So when it comes to picking colors, it just really depends on your preference. I personally do not like the pressure of picking the exact color of whatever it is I'm painting. I like to have some wiggle room. So I think it's a lot of fun whenever you paint, especially animals. not in the traditional colors that they are in, because it gives them more of an iconic look, and you don't have to focus so much technically on the color palette. So that takes a lot of pressure off of me, because I don't work well under pressure. So as you can see, I'm continuing to lay down the color, and really if you drew your sketch well and took your time with your sketch, then you shouldn't have any problems with placement. It takes a lot of stress off later on, knowing where everything is laid out. Really, you want to make sure that you're watching your subject closely and really paying attention to where everything lays in relation to each other. If you're going off of your memory for what you feel a dog's nose looks like, or a dog's eye looks like, or a dog's ear looks like, these are things that we've seen our whole lives, but we remember them differently than what they actually are. So studying your subject is a good way to make sure you're drawing it accurately, and it will make for a more realistic picture in the long run because you're not guessing. At this point, I started kind of laying out where the eyes were going to be darker, and just to give myself a visual, but I think I changed my mind a million times for this particular painting. And kind of starting to lay the groundwork for some of the details, but still not focusing too much because all of those things can be changed later. And many times I do change those things hundreds of times later, so don't feel like you're roped in. Here you can see I'm starting to lay down the groundwork for some of the details, some of the fur, the direction of the fur. His hair is a bunch of different colors and kind of wild, so I wasn't really too concerned with getting everything right with the paint. You'll see later I'll come back in and add more detail once everything is dry. So by now you've probably noticed that I'm putting 6,000 layers of paint on this canvas. And there are some people, we'll call them the others, that are capable of making a gorgeous watercolor painting in like 2 layers, but we're not going to talk about those people because you're watching my video and not theirs. Welcome. So now I'm just adding some more detail along his jawline, putting some darker values in where I see it can take it, in continuing to add some more depth. Wait a minute. Wait, what is that? What am I using? What is that? What? That's a pencil. This is supposed to be a watercolor video. Wait, I trusted you. I believed in you. I was rooting for you. Yeah, so coming to our next topic, watercolor pencils. This is something that most watercolor artists use, but they don't talk about because we're crooks. And as you can see, they are amazing tools to add detail. And if you're like me and you add 6,000 layers of paint to your picture, there comes a point when even the best watercolor paper cannot take anymore. I know, crazy. So that is where our dear watercolor pencils come in. They can add saturation of color in areas where you've already put a ton of water and the paint gets to a point where you've put so much paint that you're literally pulling paint off with your brush because you're just overworking it. So once more, let me reiterate. Take a nap. Go read a book. Go file your taxes. Find something to do for a few minutes while your painting dries, and then get some watercolor pencils and impress all of your friends. Don't overwork your painting. Sad day in my house every day that I overwork a painting, I tell you. It's bad. So you can see just in the last 5 minutes the difference that these watercolor pencils have made. Now, some people use regular pencils to add detail, and that's fine if they want that look. But what I love about watercolor pencils is they're water soluble. So you can go back over them with a paintbrush or with water or any kind of solvent, and you can paint the pencil strokes and they will look like you put paint, watercolor paint down. You can't do that with regular pencils. So things are starting to come together. Things are looking up for me. Now's as good a time as any to erase my sketch originally. I always forget to do that. Oh! And there we go. One soulless dog. Oh, okay, here we go. So another thing that you can do to add in details for your work is use fine lining pens. In this video, I'm using micron pens by Pigma, and you can really find them at most art stores. They're really good for adding detail, and as you can see, I didn't want to leave the eyeballs up to chance. It's kind of difficult to get the right look with paint for me personally, and I really like that it is just like the blackest black that you can get whenever you use a fine liner. It's good for adding detail, and it just makes the look a lot cleaner. So just darkening the edges of the eyes, and now I am going to go in with a gel pen, and I'm using the Sakura jellyroll line, I think in an 8. And this is honestly one of the best. Like, this completely changed my art once I started using these, because it takes the pressure off of you in those areas where you don't quite keep them white or you want to accentuate them after the fact. And artists use these all the time. It's okay. The watercolor police will not bust into your home and turn your life upside down if you use them. So you can see how this gel pen really added so much dimension to the dog's eyes. It completely changed the picture, in my opinion. And I'm just kind of messing around with a white watercolor pencil as well, just to give some highlights in certain areas. And the white watercolor pencil is really nice because it's not going to add on pigment too harshly, so you can really temper it. So this is always one of my favorite steps, adding in the last of the details and watching everything come together. I'm going in with another watercolor pencil in like a cerulean blue, and I'm just adding a little bit more depth. And honestly, the more colors you add in, the more depth it'll add to your painting. So don't be afraid to add different colors, and try to look for colors in everyday objects that you might look at, because whenever you're looking at a pastry, for instance, you might say, well, this pastry is brown and there's nothing else in it. But what will bring the pastry to life is the green undertones in it, and it has red undertones in it, and sometimes even purple, and really all of those things that our eyes process without letting us know. Those little details, if you train your eyes to notice them, they're really what brings your art to life and sets it apart. So yeah, next time you go into a bakery, stare at all of the cheese danishes and see how long it takes for them to throw you out onto the street. A side note for all of the watercolor pencils that I used, make sure that the painting is dry before you try to apply any of these watercolors, because you won't have much success in getting any pigment on the page. So while they do add a lot more pigment after the fact, they still need to be applied when the painting is dry. So that is pretty much wrapping it up, these final details, because I'm a professional piddler. So that's gonna be it for this video, guys. I hope you really enjoyed it, and I love you guys, even if you fast forwarded to see the ending, because this is a really long video. But I hope that you comment below and let me know what you think, and if you'd like to see more videos like this in the future. And please, 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 before you leave, hit the red subscribe button. It's really important to me, so like me. And now that I've made this sufficiently awkward for everyone, I'm going to take my leave. I will see you guys next time. Bye.